Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Game of Thrones podcast. I'm your host, Carmine of RedTeamReview, and I'm joined here once again by Mr. Preston Jacobs, and we're back to essentially talk about the first two episodes of Season 1 to Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And let's get right into it. The first thing I wanted to bring up before we get into the whole story and all that is you couldn't avoid it because of the source material, but it seems like every single Ice and Fire show we're ever going to get will always start with the death of stability. And it's usually someone from House Aaron. Have you noticed this?
Yes.
So Game of Thrones opens with the death of Jon Arryn, who pretty much kept the Seven Kingdoms together while Robert did his thing. House of the Dragon.
Yes.
First episode, Aemma Arryn. Huge point of stability in Viserys' life. Gone. Now everything's thrown into chaos. And now, for Dunk, it's Sir Arlen.
Wait, are you saying that Sir Arlen of Pennytree is secretly an Aaron?
You know what? I mean...
Never let 1,000 theories bloom.
Well, I bring it up because I wonder if the next spinoff will start that way too, because I think the next one is Aegon's Conquest, so I imagine that the death of his father or something like that would kick it off. But also, in House of the Dragon, I'm sure you'll agree, because I know you're not a big fan of how they adapted that, but they didn't have to put such an emphasis on Aemma Arryn's death affecting him so much throughout Season 1. You know, the wound that never heals. But I'm glad they did, and the focus of the death of stability for our main characters, Dunk as well, and how that affects him greatly for the entire season with Sir Arlen. It's all good. And I do think it's something they should keep doing going forward, because it does work.
No, I mean, I think they did what they could. And yeah, I mean, House of the Dragon, like I said, I've got a lot of mixed feelings about House of the Dragon. I think it's very flawed source material. I think it's a very flawed show. I think they did some things that are excellent, genius moves, and genius storytelling, and also did some idiotic things and idiotic storytelling side by side. And it's a huge mix of it's almost shocking mix of just really impressive, incredible stuff and stuff that's just boneheadedly dumb. Why would you make that mistake? All at once. And so that's how I don't know, I don't know how I would have approached the material, because like I said, the material is fundamentally flawed. I've gone over this a million times on my basic problems with House of the Dragon, but and the source material.
And I do wonder if the source material being flawed and this repeating over and over again is going to be an issue going forward, because eventually they are going to do Robert's Rebellion. And how does that whole thing kick off? Well, the death of Ned's father and his brother, and, again, stability, yada, yada.
Yeah, you don't think two droids are going to show up and one's going to have a message inside that's help me? Again,
I'm wondering if the other spinoffs are going to do the same thing. I mean, they're pretty primed to. Robert's Rebellion, Aegon the Conqueror. If we ever get a sequel series, I wonder how that's going to pop off. We'll see.
I mean, the idea is you want to pick a war period, right? Because war is more exciting because people are on battlefields and dying. And so, yeah, I mean, if war is the opposite of stability, so I mean, you're not gonna have a series about stability. You're not gonna have a series about people waking up every day and going to work.
True. The other thing about the episode that I found very interesting was, as much as I disliked it, was the conversation around Shitgate. I shouldn't even call it Shitgate because it's not really a controversy, but still at the same time, everyone you talk to, 9 times out of 10, everybody hates it. But the one thing I found so fucking hilarious about that scene is how I've seen at least 5 to 6 different interpretations of what it means.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, I find it's 5 or 6 different versions of cope, it's
Well, can I give you the give you the ones? So far the main 4 that I've seen is, number 1, it's shitting on the legacy of Game of Thrones / Dave and Dan. Number 2, it's letting you know it isn't taking itself too serious. Number 3, it's signaling that Dunk is full of shit about being a knight. 4, it's showing that Dunk isn't some fancy noble lord like in previous entries of the series. Or 5, Ira Parker just thinks it's funny to include poop humor in the show because he did it quite a bit when he wrote for House of the Dragon Season 1. Or 6, all of the above. I think it's 6, all of the above.
No, I don't think it's all of the above. I think 2 and 5 have legitimacy.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people also say it is a reference to Shakespearean or medieval humor.
That's 7
because there's a lot of,
I guess.
There's a lot of stuff in that. Ira Parker's specific explanation is just that it's showing that he's nervous and he's shitting because he's nervous.
Okay, but not to...
That was from the article that Ira Parker
I know.
said
I read it too, because the Hollywood Reporter even commented on George being like, why are we having this in here?
Yeah.
I think Ira Parker is full of shit there because no shot. No fucking shot. No shot. He quite clearly likes the poop humor. He doesn't want to admit that.
Right. I agree.
There's no, and not only that, again, not a spoiler, I promise, guys, but later on, something happens with Dunk where he's very nervous and he vomits. Yeah.
No, I mean, the thing is the shit thing is not a one-off incident. This is not if we just forget about this one thing, it's a reoccurring thing. It's a reoccurring Ira Parker thing to have like a really shocking, inappropriate joke that's just like, that's going to make everybody groan. He thinks making everybody groan with an over-the-top like poop humor joke is like hilarious.
Right.
I think probably in his head it's not about like the poop joke in itself. I think he must be getting to some sort of meta level where he's laughing at the fact that it's so inappropriate, or laughing at the fact that like no one would ever do this. Like it's to that level. I think that's my guess. Because why else would you just find poop humor? I mean, children find poop humor funny, but do adults find poop humor funny, or do they find it funny because it's unfunny, or because other people are shocked at it?
I just don't see the point. Like, that's also, again, it's also bullshit that he's like nervous or scared or whatever. No, you could just have him vomit.
Here's now I'm gonna say something that you're gonna think is like untrue, but I'm gonna compare poop humor to something that you're gonna be like, why are you comparing it to this? I think poop humor, in my personal belief, is similar to the N-word or racial humor. And I say it's similar in the sense that it's very easy and shock-based. And I'm not saying that one theoretically couldn't make something funny doing it, but you have to be really, really, really talented, and you have to accept the huge, huge, huge risk. And I personally would never attempt it because what's the fucking point? Like, there's so many other jokes to make. Why waste your time on a poop joke or an N-word joke or a racial humor joke when like there's a million jokes that are out there? Make those jokes. You have a limited number of time to make jokes.
What you're trying to say, it's all edge, no point.
Yeah, all edge, no point. So like, I mean, obviously I opened my video with a copycat thing of that, but I fucking hate poop humor jokes. Like, I fucking hate them.
You were making fun of it.
Oh yes. You only have time, and you only have time, a certain number of minutes for a certain number of jokes. So maximize it by putting in a real joke,
I spoke to someone months ago who, to the guy listening, I won't say your name, don't worry, but this guy claimed that his family member works for HBO, and the family member saw the first episode and they were disgusted. They were like, oh, this is just quite literally shitting on the legacy of Game of Thrones. And I've seen some YouTubers also echo that, and I don't know. I don't think that's what it is. I really
this is first of all, like, I don't think it's anything close to that, because let's remember, this is like the fucking goddamn like Ghostbusters legacy sequel movie with the fucking ghost Aegon shit. Like, it's having reverence for something that was completely irreverent in the first place. Okay, like Game of Thrones was not this like pristine. I mean, we fucking loved the first three seasons of Game of Thrones, but it's not this like beautifully pristine like thing that you can never that you're gonna ruin. That it's so holy or something. Like,
I agree.
Do people forgetting all of the very horrible things, even in season 1 of Game of Thrones, that are just lame? You know, the ridiculous lines, the poop humor, the tits, the ass, the ridiculous plots like Rob's wife, you know, and things like that.
You know, I can't really recall a lot of puke humor in Game of Thrones. Also, first 3 seasons? Are we going back now? Because I thought it used to be the first 4 seasons.
Even if you take the holiness, let's go into the holy 3 seasons. The even those seasons, there's some ridiculous poop humor, lowbrow humor stuff. And let's not pretend there's not, because there is. So it's just, you know.
I can't recall any off the top of my head, but I'll take your word for it.
I mean, okay, I will come up with one that's super cheap, but that's off the top of my head. Tyrion gets to the wall, and they want to make Tyrion look like he's so fucking awesome, and Yoren is hanging out with him all day long, laughing at every goddamn joke Tyrion says. And Yoren's like, "What's the most interesting thing you've ever eaten?" And Tyrion goes, "Do Dornish women count?" And it's just like, it's joke. So lame. It's such a bad fucking setup. Like, out of nowhere, he's asking him, what's the most interesting thing he's eaten? Out of fucking, like, nowhere. And of course, the most boring, obvious fucking answer to that is pussy. Like, this, of course, that's going to be the fucking, like, lowbrow, easiest fucking joke, softball fucking thing response, and that's the joke. That's season 1. I see your
point. I see your point. Not really, not poop humor, but I see your point about it being being cheap. Gotcha. Yeah. The other thing that I've also noticed is that even though Dunk and Egg, Seven Knights of Kingdoms, even though it's doing very well in the reviews and fairly decent numbers in viewership, which surprises me because
I have not seen the viewership numbers. I was waiting for them to come out.
I want to see the drop off for episode 2, but so far people tuned in quite a bit to the premiere, which still surprises me because HBO did not do a really good job of promoting it. In fact,
I wish you had the source on that, because I'm still seeing TBD on like US viewership numbers.
Look up Night of the Seven Kingdoms premiere numbers. Pretty sure it's about 6.7 million viewers. Yeah, right there. Night of the Seven Kingdoms premiered with 6.7 million viewers across U.S. platforms, HBO and Max in its first 3 days.
Variety. Yeah, I see Variety source. Okay, so according to Variety, which is a pretty good source, 6.7 million viewers. What was House of the Dragon?
House of the Dragon, I think, might have done less. 1 second. House of the Dragon... 7.8.
Okay.
Wait, no. I'm sorry. 9.9 million, 7.8 for season 2.
Okay, 9.8. I still say those are really good numbers, considering like cost to benefit kind of thing.
I agree.
And in the article, they say that their season 2 of The Pit got 5.4. So.
And Pitt's a highly rated show. Everyone loves the comment how it's amazing.
Rated. Yeah,
but I'm surprised Dunk and Egg got so much viewership, considering almost everyone I spoke to told me they didn't know it was coming out. Like, oh, there's a new Game of Thrones spinoff? Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's very it's impressive numbers. It's impressive numbers. So,
but we'll see if they can hang on to that. However, the one thing I gotta call some bullshit on is it is doing ridiculous on Rotten Tomatoes, and in a good way, I guess. It's so far as let me see here. I saw last it was at 94% Rotten Tomatoes, which is higher than both season 1. 95 now, which is higher than both season 1 of Game of Thrones and season 1 of House of the Dragon. I don't know about that.
Well, this is like this is Shawshank Redemption, like kind of world of reviewing. You know, like everyone seems to like somehow Shawshank Redemption is the best reviewed movie of all time. And if you ask anyone individually, what's your favorite movie of all time, no one would ever say Shawshank Redemption. Not that the Shawshank Redemption isn't a great movie. It is, but it's nobody's favorite. It's a really good movie, but you know,
Shawshank really the top rated movie of all time. I thought it was Citizen Kane.
No, I'm saying when you look at these IMDb rankings, Citizen Kane is like the critics' best movie of all time. If you ask a film critic, what's the best movie of all time, they will usually say Citizen Kane, because it's so revolutionary in every single one of its like filmmaking ways. But for actual like sitting down with popcorn and watching something, no, Citizen Kane kind of sucks. But but you know, so I don't know what this is how do you really judge like how good something is? I mean, we have these ranking systems and everything, but come on, we all know it's not that simple.
People are going to think that we're being too harsh on it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not. But higher than Game of Thrones season 1?
I think we've both been pretty positive on this is the problem is like people take things one way or the other. It's like you either fucking love it or you fucking like hate it, or you know, you can't like say it's pretty good with this and this criticism. Like it's a pretty good show. As I say, pretty good show. Very entertaining. Great
Better
acting.
than Game of Thrones season 1? Not a chance.
No.
Not a chance.
No. Let's not. Come on. No.
Let's be real here. Not a chance. Season 1 Game of Thrones, amazing.
No.
Not a shot.
No. Better than Andor? No.
Better than I mean, Andor was great. But yeah, no. It just amazes me how had HBO promoted this adequately, but also at the same time, maybe HBO did promote it a lot. It's just everyone is either clued out from Ice and Fire because there's no wins,
or maybe they decided that they don't need to promote it that much, and they're still going to get the numbers. I mean, I'd like to see the advertising budget. Maybe we're just not tuned into where the advertising budget is spent.
True.
Like somebody posted on our Discord, you know, that the bus that they were on the subway in New York and all the walls were covered with Night of the Seven Kingdoms ads. And you're like, oh, okay. I would have no idea. You know, I don't live in New York. You know, so you don't necessarily know where stuff's getting spent. I mean, you live in the middle of Oklahoma. Like what are you, what are they putting billboards on the sides of cows?
I do not live in the middle. Do not listen to him. It's just, again, everyone I usually speak to, people who are not like online and, you know, who are not in like the fantasy space and all the news, you would think they would have heard about it, at least in commercials and whatnot. Nope. And I don't know if that's because everybody has ad blocker on or because people have like tuned out when it comes to Ice and Fire stuff because there is no book. I have no idea. And that's actually something I wanted to talk about next, if you don't mind, is...
Sure.
Wow. Okay, so one of the things I do as part of doing YouTube covering this niche is being aware of the general opinion of the audience and where the fandom is on various topics. For example, it would be pretty tone deaf of us to go into a conversation about Game of Thrones, not realizing that the general opinion on Season 8 was that it wasn't good. I'm not saying that the audience of people in the or people in the fandom color our opinions. They don't. But like, I do need to be aware of where people are when it comes to certain things. Another example would be like, the community generally agrees that season 5 is where the drop-off happened. I disagree with that. I think it's season 6, but whatever. The general consensus is that Sean Bean was fantastic as Ned Stark, or that Daniel Ings as Lionel Baratheon is amazing. So on and so forth. You get it. But lately I've noticed that we have this new crop of people, like a lot of new people in the fandom, a lot of young people, and the difference between how it is now with these new people coming in versus 16 years ago when Thrones first premiered, it feels like a lot of these new fans have not read the source material and go out of their way not to. Now, when it comes to the books, I've read them, and I like discussing them on video and on the podcast, but I don't normally go out of my way to quote them outside of a YouTube video. And that's pretty much how I keep my sanity and interest in the series. Some of the people in my Discord server get annoyed with me because they want me to discuss it with them, and I try not to because I don't want to burn out. But lately, with these new fans, I've had to start quoting the fucking book and George himself to correct people who love to be confidently incorrect on things. And I'm gonna say it again, I normally don't quote this fucking series often, but when I have to, that's the biggest red flag ever, that something's wrong. If there was ever an indicator of a recession, it's that. I made a joke, and I'm not the only one who's been making this joke. Trey made it a while back too. I made a joke about how Dunk's height in the show, he's not as tall as other characters when you compare them. In fact, every single person that Dunk encounters who comments on his height, almost every single, is not that much shorter than he is. Daniel Ings, who plays Lionel Baratheon, he is 6 foot. Peter Claffey, who plays Dunk, is 6'5". I believe the Stefan Fossoway actor, I think he's either 5'11" or 6 foot as well. They're not that much shorter than Dunk is. And you made this point as well in your review. And I know some people are going to go and say, well, when you're tall and you meet someone who's taller than you, you notice it immediately and point it out. Sure, that's fair, of course. But that's not what's been happening in the show, nor was that the joke I made. The observation was that characters who are tall are commenting on his height like he's not slightly taller than them, but that he's a 10-foot giant who's just like this massive person when he's not. They're exaggerating a little too much, basically. So, here's the funny thing. Dunk is actually closer in height to every single show actor in the Knight of Seven Kingdoms show, and almost all of the main narrative characters in the books. And I've had to correct people who, again, are new fans, quote-unquote fans, who don't know the source material, haven't read it, don't want to. I've had to start correcting them on, like, all this height stuff. Because people kept saying, well, medieval times, everyone's short. Actually, no, not really. I went down the rabbit hole, and I found out a lot of our characters are incredibly tall. I'm not counting Gregor Clegane the Mountain or Hodor. Robert Baratheon is 6'6". Bronzion.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah.
Bronzion. Victarion. Who is... his name escapes me. Quentin Martell's friend, the Yornwood kid.
Drink.
No.
Or Archibald Ironwood.
Archibald, thank you. Stannis Baratheon and Selyse. Of course, most of the Mormonts, and you're probably one of the main pushbacks that we've gotten, both you and me more than you, is that people are trying to, well, actually, in medieval times, people were normally shorter. Sure, maybe in real life medieval times, but not in George's medieval times. And you could also argue,
right,
and I've seen the argument thrown at me as well, that, oh, well, those are nobility. Sure, but then we get to people who aren't noble. Like, or born into nobility, like Small Paul. Or the Titan's Bastard. Or one character that really surprised me with their height was Melisandre. Melisandre, in, I think, the Clash prologue, is described, and you could correct me on this if I'm wrong, she's described as being taller than most men?
Yeah, no, she said taller than most knights.
There it is, yes.
Even worse.
So
like a taller than most men, because a knight is going to be highborn, he's going to be healthier, he's going to be taller than an average person. Yeah, he said taller than most knights.
Right. So, and I want to argue that Olenna's bodyguards left and right, I don't know if they're highborn, usually like guards, they're just guards. But yeah, like, Dunk in the show, Peter Claffey, 6'5", is closer in height to a lot of our book characters and our show characters than he is to his own book counterpart, who is 6'11".
Yeah.
So, but for some reason, a lot of like the newer fans want to like argue that, but quite clearly, according to the source material, you're wrong. And I don't know what's been going on with the fandom recently. In my opinion, I think a lot of the people who are book fans are kind of petering off because there's no new book. And a lot of the newer fans coming in, the younger ones, they saw a cool character in armor with white hair who's pretty, and they decided to make that character their entire personality.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very strange. I think maybe it's just the new generation lacking, I don't know, critical thinking or the ability to go find sources or things like that.
But again, this also won't put me down the rabbit hole that George loves writing our big, tall characters. He loves that.
Oh, yeah. He likes everything in extremes is the idea. Mm-hmm. The characters are either super skinny and super muscular or they're super fat. But nobody's just like, normal. And besides, I know people will be like, no one's average except for the Tattered Prince. But like, who's like specifically average for the sake of being average. But like everybody has to be enormous or enormously tall or enormously short or enormously obese or enormously muscular or really skinny. Everything is to the extremes. Really, really handsome or really, really ugly. Really, really beautiful or really, really heinous. Nobody is just fine, Like I'm gonna name a character and I'll go, okay. So Catelyn, specifically said to be beautiful, right? Cersei, specifically said to be beautiful. Daenerys, specifically said to be beautiful. Brienne, specifically said to be ugly. Lysa, specifically said to be ugly. Like, you're like, oh, is anybody just like normal? No. Ned, specifically said to be ugly. Jaime, specifically said to be beautiful. Tyrion, specifically said to be ugly.
Arya gets called horseface, like,
Yeah, Arya is specifically said to be ugly until she's specifically told that she's beautiful. So it's like contradictory, but to the extremes. Lyanna, specifically said to be beautiful. Like, no one's just, oh no, they're pretty, they're fine. By the way, I had a question to ask you about this on this height issue, and having now been through the episode, like fully noticing the fellowshipping of it, where they're purposely trying to make Dunk look taller than he is. Do you think it's effective? And do you think, like, what if they just done the whole story and they cut all the lines about him being enormously huge, and they just had him be a dude who was walking in places as a somewhat tall night guy? Do you think the story would still work?
So him being Ser Duncan the Tall, I think it's fine. People commenting on his height, I think the only people that should have commented on his height were people much shorter than him. In fact, someone pointed this out, that when Superman, the one from James Gunn that came out recently, there's a moment where Superman is walking amongst the crowd. Someone said that the extras they got for that were specifically shorter to make him stand out as like an awkward tall man. I kind of wish the same thing happened with Dunk. There's a moment where, because you pointed out where they stand him next to like women and an Asian guy,
an Asian dude, yeah,
sure. And I guess in those
and I think he's on a box too in that one too. But yeah,
I just think the people who should be pointing out how tall he is should not be characters who are just like a couple inches shorter than him, because again, they make it sound like he's this gigantic, humongous person when he's just slightly taller than they are. And it's probably because they're adapting the source material so closely, and several of the characters there, I believe they mention how tall he is, so I guess that means these characters have to do it as well, but he's not that, he's not 6'11".
Right. It's like, I'm not that much taller than you. Jeez, like, yeah. you're right, and actually having been through a lifetime of being tall guy, I will tell you that, yeah, the people that were most verbose about my height were short people. Like, when I was in school and being made fun of, it was always some shorter guy who was like, you tall fuck, you lanky giraffe, like that kind of fucking shit came from short people.
I mean, it comes from me all the time. I'm shorter than you. It comes from me all the time.
Well, sure. But that's the thing is, and it's not surprising that like a short person is going to notice somebody that's tall and far from them a lot more than a fellow tall person. So, I think had they kept like just the innkeeps mentioning it, and maybe they cut Fossoway and Baratheon's like comments on it, I think it would have been better. I did think it was kind of a weird, like before I noticed that they fellowshipped, I did there was something in the back of my mind, like all the scenes are framed weird. There's weird direction on all of the scenes. And then I kind of occurred to me, oh, he's standing far away from everybody, and you're like, oh, okay. And I always thought he kind of looked weird just standing there by himself, far away from everybody. And so, yeah, I guess it would have been nicer to have more dynamic direction of the scenes if they didn't worry about his height constantly. And I'm fine with him hitting his head. I hit my head all the time on things. I like, as a 6'5" person, I hit my head all the time. I once did this trip to Yemen of all random places, and all the doors, or at least the door in my hotel, I remember, was like at around a 6'2" or 6'3" height. It was like tall enough that I was out of my field of vision, but short enough that I was hitting my head. Like if something's super low, I'm not going to hit my head because it's going to be right in front of my eyes. But if something is like just a little higher and you're not looking at it and you hit your head on it, like a pipe in a basement or something. Right. It's horrible. It's horrible. I mean, these are experiences that you will never have, but like tall people, this is fucking like the bane of our existence is when you hit your head on something and that you just like not quite see. And so like I understand the scenes where like Dunk hits his head. Like hitting his head on a medieval doorway is something that like I can completely see a 6'5" person doing. He didn't need to be 6'11" for that. 6'5" people hit their head on doorways all the fucking time. I know, because I'm a 6'5" motherfucker. And so it's like I'm fine with that with Dunk bumping his head on things. I just find it, but I do find it weird, yeah, that like they needed to have him like so many scenes where he's just awkwardly apart from people, having conversations from many feet away, or people making reference to the fact that he's huge.
I would rather...
He's clearly not that huge.
I agree with what you're saying. You're not wrong. I would rather it be subtle. Him hitting his head. He's always like a head taller than everyone in the crowd. Like, I would actually not... I wouldn't... At a certain point, if this was in the trailers, not a spoiler, Steely Pate even says, "You're bigger, but I've armored bigger than you."
I myself, as a 6'5" person in modern society, have trouble finding clothes at the store. Like... That's the thing, is I don't even know if the like Dunk didn't, of all the changes to Dunk and Egg that they've made, Dunk being freakishly tall is not really that important to the story.
Agree.
And so when they hired Peter Claffey and he doesn't look freakishly tall,
that's fine.
He just looks tall. I'm fine with that. I almost find it's just kind of weird that they've cast him as a guy who's pretty tall, but everyone's treating him like he's freakishly tall.
And he's not.
When he's very clearly not freakishly tall, despite their Fellowship of the Rings attempts to make him look freakishly tall.
So explain to the audience why you keep mentioning the Fellowship of the Ring, the Fellowship.
Oh, I keep saying this because, yeah, at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Rings, obviously they've hired full-grown men to be hobbits, and then they have to interact with Gandalf. And so how are you going to make full-grown men look like tiny people next to another full-grown man who is supposed to be, much, much taller? And so what they did is they used various techniques of some are forced perspective and some are distance related. So sometimes they would just take a little person or a child, put them in clothes and show them walking from the back next to Gandalf, when they wanted to show like a hobbit walk by. And then reverse, when they had Elijah Wood, they would have like a really tall man, a 7-foot tall man from the back when they wanted to have Gandalf next to Elijah Wood. They did that kind of stuff. They switched in a tall person and a little person for their body doubles. But then they also did like, actually they want to make Elijah Wood look like he's short, but they want him now sitting next to Gandalf. Well, we're just going to film Elijah Wood like far away, and that's going to make him look smaller. But then won't other things cue your perspective? Well, what if we build a special bench that actually, grows in size as it gets deeper, so it doesn't look like it's getting smaller, and then have Elijah Wood sit on that. And they do all sorts of little tricks with like the shapes of tables and the shapes of benches and all sorts of stuff.
They did something like this for the Fast and Furious 6 with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Vin Diesel. So there's a moment in Fast... Yes. And actually, let me just send this to you really quick. Do you want me to send you on Facebook or Discord?
Discord. I'm right here, yeah.
Look at this. It's like literally like 5 seconds. But if you look at this clip, Vin Diesel is shorter than The Rock. But
Vin Diesel is much shorter than Dwayne Johnson. But in the clip, they have them pass each other, but it doesn't look like they're one shorter than the other.
Right. Like this is specifically done to like, do the it's a interesting perspective. But I agree with you. And again, you're right. We are making a bigger deal of this than it needs to be, but also not really, because his height is not really an issue. It's just something we pointed out in passing. But then for some reason, like these new, I put them in quotes, fans want to like vehemently defend it for some reason. And you're like, well, no, you're wrong. Because if you read the source material and then you feel stupid because it's like, oh, these people are idiots. They haven't read the books.
Yeah. I'm just almost like fascinated that so much work was put into trying to do something that didn't need to be done. Mm-hmm. Or so much work that was put into something that like doesn't add that much to the story. Like they put a lot of fucking effort into this. They did. Every single goddamn scene is directed with the exception of the dance scene, where they just are just like, fuck it, we just can't do it. But like and I say the Lionel dunk dance scene, because the previous dancing that he does with other people, yes, but like they're clearly trying to do it. They're clearly thinking about it every time they direct the scene. Every scene they're trying to painstakingly have Dunk be at a distance and have like the other people take a few steps back to make them shorter. Like I was watching the Fossoway. Yeah.
What's funny about what you're saying right now is when Dunk is talking to Lionel and his posse, everyone's either bent over, leaning on something, or sitting down. Like you're not even wrong for a second.
Once you notice it, you can't unsee
it.
Right. And I know this is like the third time that I've like seen the episode that it actually like occurred to me, and then maybe that's a good thing. Like I wouldn't have noticed it, but I kind of noticed it in my subconscious.
Look at this.
I was like, "There's something off."
Look at this. I need to show you this. This is the scene where Lionel brings him to where Dunk has the food in his hand. Look at that guy next to Dunk. He's leaning over. Everyone's sitting down.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to look like he's like that.
What's
tall.
funny is the guy next to Lionel, who is standing, I'm assuming is his bodyguard or something, or just a man at arms, is as tall as Dunk is, if not a little taller. If you look at it like that,
I know
he's in like red and blue. Like he's as tall as Dunk is.
That's amazing.
Well, Actually, Preston, in medieval times, dude, guys, stop. Just shut the fuck up. You guys are wrong. But it comes down to I'm 19 and I think I know everything.
He's literally saying, he's saying to them, have you ever been punched in the face before? Because big men are always punched in the face. The guy standing behind you is fucking bigger than Dunk. Like, what are you fucking talking about? Right. But the thing is that they're painstakingly framing every scene, and it's just just fucking cut the lines. Just it doesn't hit. The thing is in the short story, Dunk being poor is so much more important than Dunk being tall.
I agree.
It's funny because I almost feel bad that they spent so much effort on something that I don't think worked. I don't think they really made him look taller. That's the thing. I think he still just looks 6'5". But you can watch the Raymond Fossoway. So there's a scene where, and it's really the reason that this was too hard to film and they weren't able to pull it off. But after Dunk leaves the play, Raymond Fossoway catches him, and they walk towards the camera, and the camera is clearly riding backwards. It's beautifully done walking long shot of the two men walking. And to make Dunk look a little taller, Raymond occasionally lets Dunk walk ahead, like a step or two, to just give him a little more height. But it still doesn't really work because he's not ahead of him the whole time. And you can just tell Raymond Fossoway's, an average height guy, if not a short guy compared to me. He doesn't he doesn't really make Dunk look tall. Raymond just looks short, it's, so it's I can tell that they're making the effort of trying to make Dunk look tall, but it just doesn't really work because they can't do it at all times.
On the topic of the Fossaways, real quick, I fucking love their opening lines. I know it's from the book, but I love how when they first appear, what does Stefan say? He says something like, "My cousin's not yet ripe," and Raymond says, "I may not be yet ripe, but my cousin's rotten to the core." I kind of wish their whole shtick would have been apple puns.
Well, I think it's a good thing because in the short story, they reuse the same metaphor, right in front, they use the not ripe one immediately after or something. Let me see here. He says, when fighting, Stefan says, "Here's an apple that's not ripe yet," and then immediately 3 lines later, he's like, "My cousin's not ripe yet, as you've seen," and then he responds, "I may not be ripe, but my cousin's rotten to the core," and you're just shut the fuck up about the not ripe yet. Come up with a different apple metaphor. Now they did the show improved on it in that they did cut one of them.
Dude,
and so he just says it once.
I want more. I wish their whole shtick, mostly Raymond, but also Stefan. I wish their whole shtick would have been more apple puns throughout the entire series.
No, I'm with you, but I'm for more different apple.
I got
puns.
a couple. For example, I want Raymond to go, "Wow, Dunk, you did that? That's absolutely amazing." or let's give him a round of applause.
I thought they were going to be you'd be that leaves a sour taste or something. He's sour.
See you later.
He's a bitter bite, or something like that.
Dunk, that's quite appealing. I wish
that juice.
I wish they would have done more apple puns. I fucking love that. By the way, someone pointed out something to me that I can't unsee it. When it comes to diversity in regards to these fantasy shows, most fantasy, I think we can all agree, is usually written to be a mostly white cast unless they're going off to like a desert region or something, or wherever or like the jungles or whatever the fuck, whatever fantasy series it is. Ice and Fire for the most part is fairly white, but ironically the books are more diverse than the show, at least for Game of Thrones in regards to Ice and Fire, because in A Song of Ice and Fire we have quite a few non-white characters like Alyaya, Mercuro, Jalabar Ro. Am I saying his name right?
Jalabar Zo, yeah.
Jalabar Zo. Game of Thrones just completely inserted it into random characters who are not, like Salladhor Saan or
right,
the guy from Karth. I forgot his name escapes me.
And then in House of the Dragon, they
made the Velaryons. Like, let me make this very clear.
But also the Maester, stuff like that.
The Maester, and let me make this very clear. Preston and I don't have an issue with the diversity. However, Dunk and Egg, while Dunk is at the tourney at Ashford, they're close to the They're close to Dorne. So therefore, you could argue that that's and the more north you go, the more white it is. Sure. But in Game of Thrones, you would think the capital city of King's Landing would be as diverse as Ashford is here, but it's not. Which leads me to wonder.
Right. No, you're right that anywhere in the world, your urban centers are going to be more diverse than rural areas. Yes. Exactly. That's true.
Which makes me wonder, because there's like no diversity in the capital city of King's Landing or anywhere in Westeros for that matter. It almost makes me wonder, like, was there some kind of weird genocide that happened? Some ethnic cleansing that happened in Westeros?
Okay. Yeah, I know it's true that there should absolutely be more diversity in King's Landing. It's ridiculous that there's not. Considering that, like, there'd just be people from overseas, traders.
There is in the books, but it's not in the show.
Yeah, there is in the books. Like the fact that like Ned goes to see a Narvashi. Ned goes to see a Narvashi smith, and then they made him not Narvashi in the show. Cat takes a foreign trader to get down to a foreign sell sale to get down to King's Landing. As I say, and even the people at court, like they've all these foreigners at court. Thoros of Myr is foreign. Jalabar Zo, all these people, but like, I think I brought up look, there's a tourney in town, so we can just assume that they're from Old Town in King's Landing, and they like came to the tourney. They traveled to the tourney.
Sure.
They traveled from the more diverse areas specifically for the tourney.
My headcanon is they're so close to Dorne that like there it is. Because Tansel as well, she's there, yada yada. But also, I just find it funny how like Dunk and Egg, Hedge Knight, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms takes place about 80 some odd years before Game of Thrones. In that time, what happened? What did
Oh, you're saying that we've gotten less diverse over time.
Not only less diverse over time, but it also almost makes it look like the inhabitants of Westeros drove away anyone who's non-white. Unintentionally, that's how it kind of comes off. Unintentionally.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know about King Daron II's like ice raids or something. I'm trying to think of like what they would have done.
But like again, the real answer is that when Game of Thrones was being made, Dave and Dan didn't really think to like include like this much diversity. And then when Game of Thrones came out, there was some pushback because Twitter was like brand new, and my generation at the time was bitching at them. We have more redheads. We don't have any like black folk in here.
But I think there's been another movement too, though. Like obviously over time. Look, over time, people want to make more money, and the way to make more money is to open themselves up to different demographics. And so you try to represent different demographics on screen. Like this is just basic economics of like trying to have your show get the most viewers. So you want to have diversity in your cast because that means diversity in your audience, and diversity in your audience means more money. So there's just an economic reason for it. But I think there's something else to it because they used to come up with random reasons for it. and limit it to various, oh, we're going to have this foreign character or whatever. But then I think I would call it like the Bridgerton era, where like in Bridgerton, it's just diverse. There's no logical explanation for it. It is inexplicably diverse. And I commented on my review of Wheel of Time. Like the characters literally come from a podunk village, and yet it's incredibly diverse.
It shouldn't be.
Like,
Everyone should be the same
like you
shade.
say, like it doesn't. That changes the story. They're supposed to be from a podunk, haven't seen the world village, and then they go out and have experiences and become wise. If they're from this like diverse like place in the first place that's worldly, that changes the story. But you were trying to say the same thing kind of about Ashford. We're in the middle of nowhere. How is it so diverse? Well, maybe they came from the various cities. But I think that it's kind of like when you go to see a play. No one sits there watching a play like complaining about everyone's matching diversity. I just think TV is becoming like theater, where it just doesn't matter. Just it's diverse, and we're not going to ask questions. Like, and let's move on.
Right, but the unintended consequence of a show coming out now versus back, almost 20 years ago or 10 plus years. Oh yeah, almost 20 years ago at this point, is that it almost looks like the inhabitants of Westeros for Game of Thrones kicked out all of the non-white people.
Right. Yeah, but in fact, there's been different economic decisions, and I think Bridgerton came out. Like once Bridgerton kind of said, you don't have to have any fucking logic to it, just fucking do it. Everyone's like, fine, we didn't need to have any fucking logic to it, there's somebody like before somebody's sitting there being like, well, can we introduce somebody from Essos here? Perhaps this maester was from Essos. Just put him there. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. I just thought it was funny. Like unintended consequence. But we're also so post everything in the discussion. We're like, people complain that there wasn't enough diversity. People complain there was too much diversity. The fighting went back and forth so fucking much, and now it's just like, we're so exhausted that I just don't fucking care. I don't fucking care what color people are on screen. Make you can have them be, the darkest Sudanese black and the whitest Swedish white, like next to each other in the same village in Westeros, and I will not fucking care. Like, just like, it does not matter to me anymore, because the conversation is like so post.
Which is funny because I can't wait till the usual suspects lose their fucking minds over the fact that Baelor is not slightly tan. I can't wait for that one. Holy shit.
I think I hopefully but I think that like I say, I think like woke, anti-woke, I think it's exhausting and done at this point. And it's just like, oh my God.
Oh,
we're so fucking tired.
You're a sweet summer child.
Argument.
You are a sweet summer child indeed. But okay, that was episode 1. I know we went off on some nitpicks here and there, but we have both said several times, even in our own videos, that we quite enjoyed it. Episode 2, on the other hand, I thought it was much better. Much better than episode 1. I know you said you thought the kid did a better job in episode 2 than episode 1. I think it's because he had more to do in episode 2. He had more... Egg is more, I guess, comfortable with Dunk now. And they're just hanging out, having a good time. Some people were saying on your stream that he was doing like a modern emoting. I guess that's the movement he was doing when he was having a conversation with Dunk about being tall or whatever and him being puny. But I sure, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, modern emoting, frankly. I mean, people act like it's too modern. I mean, it's the whole show practically. Mm-hmm. There's lots of characters that act like you just run into them on the street today versus medieval times, Like there's obviously Catelyn, who's acting like she's in medieval times at all times, but like, I don't know, the Hound or something, like, or even Tyrion, is much more, modern. I don't know. Or Littlefinger especially, just on his speech pattern and everything. But yeah, I don't know. Was it more modern? I'd have to look at it line by line, but most of the lines were still out of the book. Just some of them taken from Dunk and given to Egg. But no, I liked the second episode. Like I say, even though a lot of things were silly, like having a night joust, the night joust still looked beautiful.
Yeah.
Even though the idea is silly, but it looked awesome.
You would think a night joust would be well lit, like more torches and more candles. Like, I don't know. You would think, right? But also at the same time, if it's too well lit, then it's clearly like there's some soundstage lighting. I don't know. Maybe have this bitch at like dawn instead of nighttime. Whatever.
Well, they wanted to make it look, distinct. They're going to have other daytime stuff. Somebody did point out that it's a lot more difficult to do CGI when it's bright out.
Sure.
While when it's dark or foggy or rainy, you can hide a lot with CGI and it looks better. So, later, to spoil things, but like or other, future, scenes are going to be like that too, where they're just giving a little help to the CGI crew.
That final joust you're talking about was in the trailers, so I think we can talk about it.
Fair enough.
People keep bitching that they hate that we watched the entire.
Spoil too much, yeah.
We did not spoil. But shut the fuck up.
It looks cool. It looks cool that it's in the fog, but it's also much. It's also much easier to do CGI when there's atmosphere and fog. Making everything look just more realistic. You just have more. You have more, essentially smudge or blur, to deal with everything. More to hide your imperfections. The human eye can only detect so much. So,
I don't know if I'm losing it or whatever, but man, I was watching there was a video I was watching where the guy is on a slide. He's on a water slide, and all of a sudden, the slide's too narrow, and he goes too fast, and he falls off all the way into the air, and then down, and he hits another slide, and then he hits the fucking ground. I'm like, oh my god, this dude's dead. And then I go in the comments, and someone's like, man, that's clearly AI. And I'm like, that was AI? Holy shit. That looks so fucking realistic. I feel like in the next couple of years, all these scenes with these guys, the actors won't even need to put themselves in harm's way. Like, stuntmen, I think they're the next guys to go, because the AI on that was so fucking good. I did not know. I couldn't tell it was fake. I really couldn't. There's a bunch of videos I keep seeing pop up on Facebook where the guy is in a toilet. And he just goes into goes into his own bathroom in his own home. And all of a sudden, a fucking boar crashes through his window. And he's like, oh, what the fuck? And the boar is just thrashing around in there, beating him up. It looks so legit. You would be hard pressed to see, like, is this CGI or just AI making all of this up? And at some point in the future, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. It's either going to be like CGI or just really good AI. You're not going to be able to tell.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's not that they don't already use those sorts of tools when doing CGI. But keep in mind, there's also very, one of the reasons something can look very realistic to you is because it's, in low res and it looks like somebody filmed it on their phone or something. And so, and it only goes for a few seconds, and you don't have that many things to work on. Your brain when it tries to figure out if something's real or not, and if there's something off, there's literally millions of things, if not billions of things, that your brain is like looking at and noticing, and once something kind of triggers it, that's off, then you're out, and and all you can see is mistakes. And so it's a real treat when something is perfect. And do you remember seeing this scene a few times? I don't really remember anything that seemed off where I'm like out of it, where I'm like, oh, that was clearly fake. You know, maybe the guy leaning down and grabbing his shield or something. I don't know. I don't know if that was a real stunt or not. And it seemed pretty good then. I mean, it seemed over the top crazy that someone would lean down and like get the shield off the ground. But if that was a real stunt, bravo. You know, I have no idea, you know. So in a sense, like, because there was no point in which I was like, that's fake. You know, it's a real success. It's a real success, you know.
What I find interesting about the Night Joust specifically is that it does happen in the source material, and you see like all of the people from. I had to go to the comic. I read the novels, but I later found out there was a comic. So I went to the comic, and I see that there's a bunch of knights from the comics that they took and put them in the show. So you have like Lannister, Tyrell, Ashford guys, so on and so forth. And there's a reason why this joust is happening, and that reasoning isn't made clear in the show for some reason. You know what I'm talking about?
So keep in mind that from the short story, there's an original 5 champions that are defending the lady's honor, and then everyone has to like then challenge one of them. It's so the way that the joust functions, and this is not explained in the show at all, but the joust functions on a sort of king of the hill kind of situation. You've got a champion, and then someone challenges the champion, and then if the champion wins, they're still king of the hill, and if the champion loses, then the new person replaces them as the champion. So the original 5 champions were 2 Ashfords, a Tyrell, a Hardying, and Valar Targaryen, who are there in the joust, you know. So, yeah, there are some later matchups, and you know, I'd have to check to see. I didn't actually go through and check, but at some point, a Tully does challenge Harding, and you know, a Baratheon does challenge an Ashford and stuff like that. But it have because Baratheon's there, so they might just be going from, you know, what happened in the short story.
No, you're absolutely right. I just kind of wish that they made the rules of jousting a bit more like clear, because again, like I was looking at the comic and just to compare. And there's no, like, tapping on the shield or anything like that. I think we might see that in episode 3, because there's another joust there. But for the most part, like, they're not really making the rules of jousting clear to the audience. Because you and I know, like, you've seen Ivanhoe. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I also, like, you know, I know how the whole thing works. I love medieval history. And but I feel like the casual fan probably doesn't know that much about it. I've even seen a few people in the comments and even some other reviewers kind of be confused as to how it all works. Do they just like beat the shit out of each other several rounds on horseback until one person, like, you know, but there's actually some rules to it.
Right. There are, but keep in mind that even in Ivanhoe, they don't make sense. So like, you can go through the original Ivanhoe short story and like try to make sense of it, and then like go to the Ivanhoe movie and try to make sense of it. It's off.
What does it make sense specifically?
Well, in the Ivanhoe movie, there are 5 champions, and then for some reason in the movie, this is specifically the movie, Ivanhoe challenges all 5 champions, and so then he defeats all 5 champions, and you're like, but champions don't actually like challenge each other. Like, that's not a thing. But he did it just to like, and then at that point he chooses the Queen of Love and Beauty. I think in the short story he only challenges one, and then there's like the 5 get together and they choose the Queen of Love and Beauty. Like, they decide as a group or something. You know, there's just like little things like that, and you're like, well, how does that work? That he challenged all 5 champions. Okay, you know, it's the same here. Like with 5 champions, how do you determine the Queen of Love and Beauty? Is there a vote? Like, do people put it, like what happens there? Are they going to vote against Ashford's daughter? Because that's pretty shitty considering that they're all like being hosted by her and it's her birthday. Like, things like that. Like, what are you doing here? What's going on? So.
So what you're saying is George probably should have made the rules a bit more concrete. So
Right. I mean, it's, as much as like George loves reading and stuff, and keep in mind that like when he was writing these sorts of things, like the internet wasn't crazy. Mm-hmm. They didn't have all this information available. So, he can read books and stuff. But the rules of jousting, they vary from tourney to tourney. They vary greatly from tourney to tourney. So it's hard to say like how something ought to function at a particular time. For example, I mean, in this tourney, it's very clear that you have to be a knight. That wasn't true of the Hands tourney. Jorah Cassell and the Hound are both in that tourney.
True.
And it was no problem. But those rules would not function in the Hedge Knight as, you have to be a freaking knight. Like that's primary thing, or else Dunk like couldn't participate. Or he would just have, or there'd be no story. He could participate easily.
That's a good point.
So there's these little things. Yeah. There's little rules that change. I mean, you can have brackets, things like that. Like, and so when you ask, like, what were the rules at the Harrenhal tourney? No one knows. No one knows. You can try to figure it out, but no one really knows. Like why is Rhaegar the winner of the whole tourney? Like what were the specific rules that led to him being the winner? Were there brackets? Didn't seem like it.
I just wish the show kind of took the time to explain some of the rules a bit better so people know what the hell they're watching, because it does look like a bracket system where names are drawn like out of a hat and they go head to head until one person remains, because that's what it does seem like. But it also feels like it's just chaos for the sake of chaos. Like the final battle stuff, which I won't go into, spoiler, but when the final battle stuff happens, it seems like that has more defined rules than jousting does, despite the fact that characters love to say later on that what's about to happen hasn't happened in 100 years. And obviously jousting happens way more than that other thing. So there should be a more defined rule thing, or maybe have like someone explain it to Dunk, and by explaining it to Dunk, they explain it to the audience as well. And sometimes I'm a little confused like where he even stands, because so far we've only seen higher lords coming and do the jousting. I haven't seen any other Hedge Knight guys on the field, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say. We know that, like, there was clearly, like, lame, lesser knights that were put up against the Knight of the Laughing Tree. Like, House Hay and House Blount and House Frey, like, these minor knights that went up against the Knight of the Laughing Tree. And then... we know that that the Knight of the Laughing Tree got to challenge them individually, but how does being able to challenge people individually lead to a single champion in the end? We're not sure. I'm sure there's some sort of rules that somebody could come up with that describe the whole thing, but it's just not. It's not ever like mentioned.
Every Ice and Fire spinoff now has a joust and a melee, because House of the Dragon, first episode with Daemon and Sir Criston Cole, and we're gonna see a melee here and the joust here. Yeah, of course, in Game of Thrones we had that where the Hands tourney. By the way, the Hands tourney is Game of Thrones fucked up with the Hands tourney. It's the least impressive looking tourney. I would argue like this and House of the Dragon did it so much better, so much fucking better. Yeah. The Hands tourney. There weren't even a lot of people there. Maybe it was Ned and he was like trying to keep it like low key. He didn't want to make it an extravaganza. Like, okay, fine, but holy shit, man. The ones from House of the Dragon and the one here, so fucking cool. Any other Game of Thrones spinoff, you're going to have the death of an Aaron and a joust. At least it has to be like every new show.
Well, there's so many little things, because like jousting, like there's rules about there's rules in jousting, like there's there's some jousts where you get points for striking shields. There's some jousts where you have to unhorse. Then there's some jousts where it goes until someone yields, meaning like the face-off can continue on even if you're unhorsed. You just pull out your sword, and then all of a sudden, you're fighting on foot, and that's just as good, So, for instance, I think the hands tourney. I'm trying to remember. Like, the mountain gets really angry and attacks Sir Loras, but like, was that a challenge of a continue on as melee, or was that just him pissed off wanting to attack Loras? Was it an unhorsing? You're defeated. Like, was he already defeated at that point, or was he like challenging? And I don't know. That's what's funny is I don't know, because the rules are never really explained.
But yeah, not really much to say about this episode. I know people got on your case for nitpicking a lot during the stream, but here's the thing.
Oh, they always do.
Here's the thing, though. It's more boring for you to go, and this happened, and that was great. And this happened, and that was great.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's more fun, listening to you be a crazy person and nitpick all this stuff. You didn't hate the episode. I didn't hate it either. I thought it was better.
No, it was really fun.
Better than the first one. Someone hit me up privately, and they know someone who worked behind the scenes, and apparently Lionel, during the tug of war, which I really liked, by the way, I low-key, you saw my review, I low-key kind of wanted an extra episode where they're just kind of hanging out. I know people are going to get upset at that because they want to get the meat and potatoes of what the story is. But I kind of wanted another episode where they're just hanging out, I really liked them. Just hanging out, having a good time, before. Oh,
it was fantastic. I mean, not only, I would say that the tug of war was one of the greatest additions, because you not only you're giving Lionel Baratheon more screen time. That's great. He's fun. But also you're giving something that Duncan Egg are bonding over. And, if there's anything in the short story, like the weakness is there's just not enough time for the two of them to bond.
A lot of their bonding is off screen when the story ends, when they're in Dorne, which I doubt we're going to get Dorne. I think it's going to be flashbacks in season 2.
Oh, right. Even between stories. Right. But, you start seeing that you really, that the two are really liking each other, and that's what's great. And so, the characters are bonding, and we bond with them and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a great scene. Like when he lifts up Egg and is like, yeah, we won the tug of war. Yeah.
That was
fantastic.
To what I was saying, someone who knows somebody that worked behind the scenes said that Daniel Ings improvised that scene where he stops and he goes to get a drink. And he's like, I'm thirsty. Yeah. I'm thirsty. Good job. And that whole thing was improvised. And I love that. Please keep doing more of that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Please keep doing more of that. It's gonna fucking suck in the far future when Dunk has to face him down in the.
Don't worry, that's never gonna happen.
Oh,
you're never gonna see that put to screen.
It.
It's okay.
We need more Chase Stone art adapted. We really, truly do. It needs to be. So the way I got into The Witcher was through the Project CD Red video games. I think they're great, and Project CD Red video games have, in my opinion, the gold standard of how the characters should look like in any adaptation. Even though Netflix took their own liberties with it and changed literally the way everyone looks, except for the three mains, kinda. Chase Stone, his artwork on the Kingsguard, my god. That is fucking phenomenal. That is, to me, the gold standard of how not only the armor, but the dragons, the architect, that's how everything should look. We need something to anchor down everything, because it just kind of looks fucking silly. Is there a design guy in charge of the Red Keep's designs for armor for the Kingsguard? Because I low-key kind of hate how almost every series has their own different flavor to it. Sometimes it's great, but sometimes it's okay, can we have some consistency here?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel this about Star Trek uniforms. They're constantly changing them. And it's guys, it's been like 5 years and you've like revamped your uniforms fucking again. Like, come on. And it is just because like, oh, they have some art director that like wants his own signature.
Right.
And like wants to change it and wants to do something. You know,
I thought it was
idle
because
hands.
Patrick Stewart was, I swear I saw an interview where he was saying how the uniforms, at least in season 1 TNG, was because they changed it because it was really hard to sit in and it caused him like back pain.
Well, first of all, I'm saying there's a whole bunch of changes. Okay, so yes, there is his uniforms for the first couple seasons of TNG, and then they change to late season TNG, and then they change to DS9 uniforms, in which you see them briefly in Generations, like some of them wear the DS9 uniform in Generations. And then meanwhile, they started Voyager, and Voyager has the DS9 uniforms. But then the movie First Contact changes the uniforms again to being all like gray. And so then DS9 has to change to the First Contact uniforms. But Voyager, because they're in the Delta Quadrant, stayed with the DS9 uniforms the whole time. And it's just like, whoa, that's a lot of changes. That's a lot of changes to the uniform in this very short period of time. This 20-year period, how many times they changed the uniform. Meanwhile, you can look at like Kirk's uniform and the uniforms that he's using in the later movies like are used all the way. They start showing them in like Yesterday's Enterprise, and you're like, my God, they use those uniforms for like 50 years. Meanwhile, they're changing the Star Trek uniforms like 5 years in the main show. Yeah.
I hate when I'll be like using an app and then they change the UI and it's fucking dog shit. Guys, do you really need to have that guy on retainer to just fuck with
That's
the
the
UI?
thing is like, if it ain't broke,
so
if it ain't broke, like if somebody like pulls it up and that looks pretty awesome, like why are we shifting things around? Oh, because somebody wants it to look visually distinct. Does the audience want it to be visually distinct? Does it make that much of a difference to the story? Well, somebody's getting paid to do it, so they feel like they need to do something.
There has to be some like in-universe like reasoning for this. It has to be. The one thing I'm a little worried over is if this is its own continuity, if it doesn't follow Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon quite clearly follows Game of Thrones. Like, clearly, the dagger, the Red Keep looks the same. And the Red Keep does look the same here as it did in the other shows, but also, I don't know, like, I need it to connect. This needs to be a connection. I need it to be a part of the cinematic universe.
I think it's connecting, but also keep in mind that retcons exist. So, you know how like they revised the family tree for Game of Thrones with the Targaryen family tree, and I think they're now like unrevising it. I think the same thing is, true with like the Crown Stag. That was like something that was the Crown Stag goof, which was like retconned for House of the Dragon. Like they made the Crown Stag like Robert Baratheon's thing in Game of Thrones, and then they retconned it to in the show. I mean, in the book, the Crown Stag was there from the beginning. It's not Robert's thing, but like in House of the Dragon, they made the Crown Stag there too. So now it's retconned that scene in Game of Thrones doesn't make any sense or didn't happen, with Bran saying that the Crown Stag is Robert's. So Crown Stag is here too in Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
It is. And in fact, you see it. I had to increase the brightness on it on my computer, but here's a screenshot of the like you see it's not only just it's not only the Crown Stag, but it's also there's a map marker that they use in the show when they're at the war table to signify Baratheon forces. I'm pretty sure there was like a blink and you'll miss moment about it. And yeah, it has the crown, and it's the same one they have on top of the tent. But no, overall, everyone did a good job. Of course, Daniel Ings again as Lionel. He steals the show. Maekar and Baelor, great. I'm surprised the Gen Z fans, quote-unquote fans, aren't complaining that Baelor isn't tanned because he's part Martell. Sure, whatever. No complaints there. Everyone did a good job. I would have liked to have seen Tansel more, but whatever.
Yeah,
Episode 3.
I would have liked to see just more of the play or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just once, I would like to see an actual joust, like from start to end. I know that might sound boring to a lot of people, but it always seems like the joust ends prematurely.
Right. Like you're saying, like, you announce the person, they go out there, they put their visors down, they joust, they pass, they break some lances, they get fed new lances, they joust. Somebody gets on horse.
I know. Like,
yield.
I know. Like it sounds boring, and it probably is to the average person. But I'm like so.
You're talking like the most exciting thing that like exists in this time period, and it's not exciting enough, so they like cut away, with and add other things because it's just not exciting enough.
Like I said, I know it sounds boring maybe to the average casual, because they want like some blood and guts and flying around, yada. That's fair. I don't know. I just quite like this episode, and I kind of.
I've been to medieval times. Like it's pretty exciting. Yeah,
I think so too.
Exciting.
Wait, medieval times? You went to the one in Jersey?
No, there's one in Maryland.
Oh, I went to the one in Jersey. Was there a trader for you like it was for me?
No, I forgot. I mean, I honestly forgot the plot. How they have the king come out and he's got a little microphone on his head, and he wasn't a good actor, and he's just like, and like he just droned on, and I was like, you rooted for like color teams, and
of course,
there was some jousts.
My buddy Spike from way back when, he actually used to work at medieval times in Jersey, and he would always say like, yeah, no, dude, they're actually doing the real thing. It's not bullshit. It can be fucking dangerous sometimes. Like it's a whole fucking
absolutely.
thing. Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
He was telling me how you have to have like certain requirements and like sign a bunch of fucking paperwork. It's like a whole thing. And for those of you wondering, like, yes, medieval times is an actual like show, kind of like like a play or whatever, but it's like this grand thing.
Right. But also keep in mind that if you're the type of person that grows up like riding horses and loves horses, like how many jobs in America are there for people to ride horses? Like I'm sure it pays nothing, but at the same time, it's like these people love riding horses.
Yeah. And no, medieval times, you go, you eat with your hands like chicken, and you drink Pepsi out of this.
You drink Pepsi, yeah, and you get little crowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like the episode. Episode 3, though, is where everything pops off, and then we'll have a little discussion about that in regards to one specific scene that happens with Egg and Dunk, which kind of makes no sense, but I would also like Elio to come in with us towards the very end. I want to bring him on as a guest if he's keen, and we'll talk about that, because he made some additions to the World of Ice and Fire regarding Summerhall and Egg, and I asked him privately if it was always the intention for him to do this specific thing, and he said yes, it was. I won't go into detail because it is a spoiler, but yeah. No.
Did you send me this?
No, I can tell you after we're done recording, though. But,
sounds good.
I would like to have Elio on. Preston, do you mind if we wrap it up here?
Sounds good.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we'll see you all next time. Have a good one.